Welcome to Showskaters podcast episode 6 with Lorna Brown, world and Olympic coach and choreographer, former world professional ice skating champion, and a former member of the John Curry's company and a PSA level 7 ranking. Now, I do need to give a few disclaimers for this conversation, because if you know Lorna, if you really know Lorna, and I know her just from this past week, we've spoken many times, Lorna can talk. So I have permission to interrupt if need be when she goes off a little bit on her stories. But this is going to be an incredible conversation. We could probably be here all day long. Without further ado, and before that, because I always forget, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. So I'm going to start off with a piece from Laura, and I'm going to bring her on just after that. Enjoy. How does this make you feel?
Pure movements in my dance,
I can hear
like
you.
a child in a trance. Movements reaching into air, flowing, growing everywhere.
Yes,
A chance to live and
does.
to express.
I was actually
Wearing a
injured when I was
translucent
doing
liquid
that, and it was in
dress,
Sunderland Ice Rink,
darting,
which doesn't even
snatching,
exist anymore,
reaching,
sadly.
catching, reflections in water,
Oh my God.
mirrors watching. In a curling wave against the wind,
I had just come back
no need
from
to hide
New York
or
about
to pretend.
6 months before that, and finished doing the
Each one
ice dancing
alone,
video with John Curry.
away from the other,
And I was
loving the air,
on
extending the
vacation
body into
in
everything in its
Mallorca
reach,
playing tennis,
not knowing how
and
far it will
accidentally
go. Feel it gushing out of each atom of the body,
dislocated a tendon
flowing
in my
out
ankle.
to freedom, on
Yeah,
until
and
the
it was
storm has
a
stopped,
few months
until
healing,
the sun
but it didn't
comes
heal the
out
right way. Ended up having
to
surgery.
warm the
Anyway,
whole
that was
earth.
just
Yeah. Anyway, see, you're already talking.
it's
this flavor that you're going to go off on your little path, which is great.
yeah. I'm just wondering if I should wear my iPads. I'm going to take them off again because you're breaking up a little bit.
Well, because we have this on, we'll be fine.
Shall I take them out?
No, just stay how you are.
Okay, all right. As long as I can hear what you're saying and you can hear what I'm saying.
And once we finish up, then we'll get into this. Is just a little bit of ad lib. So there we are. So, Lorna, welcome to the podcast. What a week it's been. I've enjoyed talking to you so much, and I can't wait for you to share all of your amazing stories. So let's start this off with an introduction of who you are present day in the skating world.
In the present day,
Yeah.
I'm a coach, but mainly a choreographer. That's what I really love doing more than anything else. I've just recently finished choreographing a piece for Daniel Berdnikov, which I'm calling Language of the Soul.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's turned out really beautifully. When I start choreography, it's like serendipity. I don't really know what I'm going to do. And sometimes things come together quicker than others. And sometimes, you get stuck on something and somehow eventually it comes around. And the beauty of it is when it is finished, you're still apprehensive about what people or how other people will see it and interpret it when they see it. And the beauty of it is when you know that people loved it, and yeah.
Amazing. So, do we start? Do we start from the beginning? Do we just go on a journey? And just to let everybody know, this is going to be kind of a walk through a journey of Lorna's life, highlighting different moments of her career, which has been an incredible career. If we were going to talk about everything, we'll be here for weeks and weeks and weeks. So, shall we kind of get into it? We just start, and I'll interrupt as need be and kind of bring you back onto the path, and we'll kind of touch on a few things that I know you really want to talk about.
Yeah.
So where did it all begin? Where did figure skating begin for you?
Well, actual figure skating didn't start until I was actually 9.5. But I had my mum put me into ballet school when I was 3, so I was a very quite a well-trained dancer, because I did, all the things that kids do, ballet, tap, modern jazz, modern stage, that kind of thing. And so I was already into the theatrical, frame of mind, if you know what I mean. That's what I was from being very young. I had pictures of dancers all over my bedroom walls, up until, well, forever really. But I remember when I was very young, up until I was about 11, I had lots of pictures of ballet dancers, and I grew from there. I started skating at 9.5, and then I was an amateur for 10 years.
Yeah.
And competed internationally, and I became junior British champion.
Amazing.
Winning the figures and the free. And then when I went into the seniors, things went a little strange. I won the free, came 9th in the figures, didn't make it onto the team when I expected to.
Yeah.
So decided to turn professional, and I competed in Wembley, and I came second by 0.2 to Hannah Moskova, who was 3rd in the Olympics and Worlds and a European champion. And judges didn't want me to turn professional. They said, your turn will come. And I said, after 3 championships, I'm not waiting any longer. I'm turning professional. I'm going to do my thing and feel free,
Yeah. Do you think when you came 9th in the figures, if you'd have imagined you'd have come first and you'd have won, do you think you would have carried on, or you would have still wanted to go into shows?
I think I would have carried on, because I would have, if it was the first time, I don't know. But if it was like, if I got there on the 3rd time, it's really hard to say. I really don't know. I don't know. It would have been a whole different path to go on.
Exactly. Do you believe that everything happens for a reason?
It seems to, and
Yeah.
sometimes I can even, I even sometimes seem to predict things. It's really weird.
Yeah.
But I think that's what we call instinct.
Yeah.
I think some things are instinctive.
No, exactly. I think this is one of the great things about being, like, even for me, I'm 43, but I've learned so much now. When things don't pan out as expected, I'm just take it like, okay, that's fine. But when you're younger, it's your whole world. Oh my God, what am I going to do now? But then you learn that you pivot, you navigate, you do something else, and you end up where you're supposed to be ultimately, don't you?
Yeah. So anyway, when I turned professional and I did that World Professional Championship, it was great at the time, and I was really happy to be on the same stage as Hannah Moskova, because she was somebody I would watch on television and think, oh my God, she's amazing. She jumps so beautifully, and she's a beautiful girl, and so to be out there and then to come second to her was just mind-blowing. And so from then on, I got a lot of offers to do shows, and I never actually went into holiday, although they did try to get me. I would do, like, I remember going to South Africa and doing Marjorie Chase show, the pantomimes. And although I didn't really like doing the miming thing, you know, like they do in pantomimes, it was a fun show to do for me to get started. And then I did the Wembley show, because there used to be a Wembley show, and I played Polly Perkins, who's the principal girl,
Nice.
with Reg Park. And then I did the Bournemouth show, the Follies show in Bournemouth, and I did some shows in France. I did La Belle au Bois de Monde, the Sleeping Beauty. I did the Bournemouth show again, and then after just 2 or 3 years, you know, John Curry won the Olympics, and he came to the Bournemouth show when I was actually in it, and to do a guest performance, you know, because he had just won the Olympics, and he asked me right there and then if I would join the company. And of course, I knew John from our childhood, and we had skated together, being with the same coach, and we dreamt about doing an ice show, which was like a ballet company on ice, on a stage, in a theater, and all of that came true. And we did the first show at the Cambridge Theatre in Covent Garden, which was a very small stage, and we didn't even have an orchestra. We just had a piano, but we had people like Mikhail Baryshnikov, and Natalia Makarova, and all these famous choreographers and producers who, like Anton Dolan and Sir Frederick Ashton, and amazing audiences that, you know, it was an honor to perform for. And then so I think John learned a lot from that show, because you know, the costumes weren't that great, even though we had a guy called Joe Euler, who was a very famous dress designer in New York. And I remember going to be fitted for a costume in pure silk. That was like, back then, £300 then in England, a meter. And he threw this piece of material onto me. He went, and then said, "It's going to work." And I'm like, what is going to work? Anyway, we were all dressed in like lingerie. You know, it was like these loose costumes, and which I would have never designed myself, because they weren't flattering.
I bet you look fabulous.
And anyway, there was no belt, so it was kind of hanging on my waist. And so I said, during a dress rehearsal, I said, I can't wear this. I need something, you know, a belt or something. So somebody came down with this strip of material, not even sewn. And I said, I'm not wearing that rag around my waist.
Yeah.
So they took it back up and they stitched it. So it was like a long tube of silk. So I wrapped that round, and that was it for the rest of the, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, I'd already had show experience. John came in and he had set ideas about what he wanted. And we had white boots with silver heels. And I'd always had beige boots, flesh colored, to blend in with my legs. And, you know, so I was kind of like going backwards in some ways, you know. But there were a lot of people complained about it. So by the time we got to the London Palladium the next year, it was a massive stage, London Philharmonic Orchestra, which was amazing.
Wow.
We had people like David Hersey did the lighting, who was for Cats.
Yeah.
And we had, oh God, I can't remember the name yet. Somebody from the Royal Ballet who did all of our costumes, and were much better costumes than, so everything got better, you know. And the show was just amazing. And I partnered John in the Scenes from Childhood, and I partnered him in the 1895, which was like, it was, when you would see the stage, there was a gauze screen, and it looked like a painting when the curtain came up. So there was a gauze. So we were all posing, and I was the toffee apple seller. And then there was the one with the balloons, and somebody was something else. And John was the newspaper boy, you know, the Pearly King.
Yeah. You have a great memory, by the way, to remember all of it. You have a great memory. I don't remember anything from a lot of my shows.
Well, anyway, it was an amazing piece. It was supposed to be back in 1895, And
Yeah.
funnily enough, that ice rink in London, whether it was in the same place, I mean, that theatre, sorry, used to be an ice rink. The theatre, I don't know, it's a bit confusing because there was an ice rink either where we were in the theatre or it was somewhere close by anyway. But anyway, the costumes were great, and all the pieces. One of the pieces we did was a jazz piece, who was choreographed by Norman Main, who also choreographed L'après-midi d'un faun, and it was just a great big mirror across the whole back of the stage, and it was really hard to get used to at first because you'd be skating around and like, whoa, I'm right in it almost, you know. So we had to get used to that, but it was very effective. Yeah, that was an amazing show. We did a folk piece, and I had a solo in that. It was just incredible. We had more people in the show as well, and so that ran for a couple of months. And after that, there was a break, and then we went to New York, and we rehearsed there for a month, which was incredibly hard. We would be up early in the morning, meet at 6 o'clock outside of John's. We'd all go together in a minibus to I think it was Westchester, somewhere in New York anyway. And we would start off, as always, with an hour ballet class with Joyce Graham, who was a very renowned ballet teacher. And then we would go to our dressing rooms and put our makeup on and get ready for the show. It was.
Was this 6 days a week? We just have one day off.
When we were in New York, I can't actually remember how long we rehearsed for, but the actual rehearsals were hard work. You know, they were like all day long. A
lot of rehearsals are like, we all look forward to rehearsals because we could look forward to a new show, and after the first day, you're like, oh no.
There was one little drama story I can tell you about what happened
definitely.
when we were in London, going back now to the Palladium show. We were rehearsing at the Twickenham Film Studios, and there were people like Franco Zeffirelli, famous Italian film producer there, editing films, and we had a studio full of ice, you know, the size of the stage of the London Palladium, so we could rehearse on the correct measurements, and there were other famous people there, film producers, and we were rehearsing a beautiful, my favorite piece ever, called La Petite Suite pour Harp. It was a little suite for the harp, and we had a beautiful live by harpist on a gold on a gold stand, and this gold harp, and this long chiffon dress draped over it, playing this beautiful music. And then I got the solo in that, and I was dressed in a like a wine-colored leotard with a chiffon skirt. And so after the solo, I'd rushed off from London before, quick change on the side of the stage with a dresser, and then I'd go back and do this solo. And we had like leafy projections on the ice, and the back was just shades of blue. It was really beautiful, a very beautiful design. And then two of the girls came out. Like, I'd go back into the corner, they'd come out, and we move in slow motion to the harpist slowed right down, and we did this whole slow motion section, which was very beautiful and very contemporary. And then it would burst into a very fast dun 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 dun, really fast piece of music. It was all by David Watkins. Oh, I'm remembering a lot. And it was tricky. It was like being on a tightrope every night.
Yeah.
Really tricky steps in that part. And then we'd end with the three of us, like one with the leg low, one with a little higher, one in full arabesque. And they wrote in a ballet magazine that we looked like a statue outside of the Paris Opera.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Anyway, ask me something else.
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking as I'm listening to these amazing stories from a few years ago. Are there any shows nowadays that fit kind of the genre, the feel of exactly what you've just been talking about? Because I've seen a few pieces from Ice Theatre of New York, but I don't believe it's exactly like this. Am I correct?
Well, Ice Theatre of New York is actually next year celebrating 40 years. And they are the original theatre company in the world. And founder and director is Moira North. And, they've had some wonderful people perform with them over the years, and they do tribute to somebody every time they have one of their concerts or galas, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But going back to your question, John's show must have cost millions, because we had the most famous choreographers in the world. Like, so a lot of skaters won't know, but ballet dancers will. Sir Frederick Ashton was, Kenneth Macmillan. He was director of the Royal Ballet, and he choreographed things like Romeo and Juliet in the most prolific way. Because he was much more physical, and it was ballet, but he was very passionate. And he did a ballet called Mailing, which you had to be over a certain age to go and see. I saw it a couple of years ago in LA. But people like that. And we had there's a list of people that we had who were just phenomenal choreographers, and we would always have to do their classes with the choreographer to get into their style and for them to get to know our bodies and how we move. It was really great the way a lot of things were done. He got the best lighting people, not the first show so much, but in the London Palladium, to me that was the best show. The best dress, the best of everything was just amazing. And it was, the theatre is fantastic. If you've been in the London Palladium, it's massive. And we actually had it extended right out as far as possible, so that we had as much of the space available, stage space available. The front was extended out, and then we had the orchestra. It wasn't so easy in the first show. I actually fell off the stage there once. Well, it was during a rehearsal for the jazz piece, and I was at the front with John, and we'd stop dead. And I think Jacqueline Harbord, there was John in the middle and me and Jackie at the side. And Norman Main said, I want everybody to spin faster. You need to spin faster and stop with the music at the very end. So I was already spinning like a top anyway. And I tried to put even extra, so eventually I flew off the stage and hit my knee I kind of turned over, and the stage was sloping because they'd extended it.
Because they have a rake as well, don't they? A lot of the stages where they tilt forwards slightly.
They have to build it up, and put some sort of support in, because the weight of the ice, and then people skating and jumping and whatever we were doing, over and over every night, obviously did something to bend it somehow, and it was really dangerous. He had been complaining to Larry Pons, who was the owner of the theatre, and that he was the owner of the Cambridge and the London Palladium, and I believe other theatres in London as well. And he didn't do anything about it until this accident that happened to me, which I was only off for 4 days. After seeing the show without me, I just had to get back.
That's the thing. When you get injured and you come in to watch the show, you want to be back in the show.
Oh yeah, it's terrible to be sitting in the show and watching it, and not being in it.
Yeah. So talking about these choreographers of the past that you worked with, is this the type of show that you would see yourself wanting to create one day?
Well, no. I have my own ideas of the way I would do something, and it would be like nothing you've ever seen before.
I love it. I love it. I know we have talked a little bit about a few ideas. We won't talk about that just yet. We'll keep that under our hat.
I do have ideas in my head, and I had a friend once I would talk a lot with called Shepherd Clark, and he was a very good skater, competed in nationals in America, did massive triple axel. He's now the winner of the figure and fancy championships for several years. But we used to sit and we wanted to do a show. It never happened because it costs so much money. But the ideas that came into my head were like, oh God, like never seen anything like it.
Oh, I'm not sure what's just happened. This has never happened before. Oh, you're there.
Oh God, that was Vaktan calling me. I told him not to.
Put your phone on Do Not Disturb. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb. Then that one.
Oh God, I'm scared in case I wipe you off.
Oh, I thought I was going to be just trying to.
Hopefully nobody else will ring. Hopefully nobody else will ring me. Okay.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny? You know what that just reminded me of? Have you ever been in a show and then the music just stops or the lights?
I have. I've had. You've just awakened a couple of other memories.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was in France doing that. La Belle au Bois Dormant, Sleeping Beauty, and I was in the middle of my solo, and something blew up, and it was it was back in the day, and some music machine caught fire, and everything in the building was in total darkness, and I was screaming. My French was not very good, but I was shouting, "Merde, c'est terrible, c'est impossible, qu'est-ce que c'est?" Oh, I didn't know what I was saying, but anyway, I had to make my way off, and then they fixed it, and they got it back on again. Oh,
it's always when it happens, it's so unexpected, and you're like, "Do I just carry on? Do I get off? And or if the lights go off?"
Well, yeah, I mean, it was. I would have carried on if it had just been the music, but I couldn't because I was in darkness.
Yeah, it's the worst. Let me tell you a funny story. When I was doing a holiday on ice in Colombia, in Pereira, it was torrential rain outside, and it had been raining all day. And we arrived at the show, and there was a small drip onto the ice, and we were told, okay, make sure you try not to skate under this. But as we went through number, it started to get bigger and bigger, and then there was another, and then there's another. And then at one point through a number, it just, whatever the roof was, it opened up and it just came, it was coming through like more and more and more. And by the time we got to the last number in the first half, suddenly it all just came flat, like all came down.
Oh my goodness.
And some people were right underneath this. I wish I knew we were going to tell this story because there's a video on YouTube. I'll have to post it tomorrow because it's ridiculous. And then we ended up in the second half though somehow. I don't remember exactly what happened. See, I don't remember everything, but I just remember this was like an experience. But unexpected things that happen in shows can be really funny, and they can also.
Oh, I mean, honestly, I won't do this, but I could spend an hour telling you about like when I was doing Madame Butterfly in Mallorca, and then another time I was in Bulgaria, and it was a bit of a nightmare there because it was then communist and we didn't always even have water to make the ice. And anyway, I'll tell you very quickly. So I was in Bulgaria and I was playing a Russian doll, and the chorus line was across. I came out, swizzling in this great big doll costume with a hoop around the bottom. And then all of a sudden, the hoop started to rock and got stuck on my toe pick.
Oh my God.
And I went flat. It was just like tripping over something helplessly. I went flat on my stomach, and the whole costume was velcroed at the back, so it burst open. But fortunately, I was wearing a mini costume underneath.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like there was nothing, so the boys from the chorus came, and they were like making jokes at me very quietly and
Yeah.
getting me up. And that was one thing that happened. And they took the costume away, and I carried on, and the music starts playing. The other thing was similar. I came out in a long kimono and with a fan, doing Madame Butterfly in a show called Melody on Ice, and it was fabulous. We went all over Spain in that show. So we had a prince in the audience that night. Don't ask me who it was, because I can't remember. A prince of Spain. And I came out, and I had the wig, with the cherry blossom in my hair and everything, and the special makeup to make me look like Japanese. And so I come along, and I have this beautiful big kimono, and as I was crossing the front of the stage, and I was heading for the corner, and then the boys would take my kimono off, and I would skate to One Fine Day, which was always lovely.
Yeah.
And instead of that, I mean, I did do it, but on my way there, again, the hem of the kimono got stuck in my toe pick. And another thing, and flat out thinking, oh no, there's a prince in the audience tonight. This is absolutely horrendous. Oh God, so yeah, there's numerous things. There's numerous things that have happened.
Do you feel like you were maybe have been a little bit accident or injury prone throughout your life? And I know we have talked about a few injuries. Do you want to maybe touch on a couple of those?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. I used to jump one way and spin the other, and I think what hurt my hip a lot was, apart from just the usual stuff, because it was my left hip, my right hip is the one I would land on, but I would spin to the other way, and I would do a butterfly the other way, and I used to do a really fast split jump, and instead of turning afterwards, I would stay forwards and then turn the other way into a butterfly and do numerous illusions up and down, and full speed. I would do it like full. I have a video somewhere of me doing this, and it was like the edge was so like powerful, because I had to hold the edge really strong, to stop it from going around, like, and then do the butterfly, and it used to fly like mad. And I think maybe that was partly doing that again and again. And then, I did all the stretching and so all sorts of stuff, that would maybe wear out the hip. And I may have inherited some of it, because my mother had also a bad left hip, and my oldest brother has a bad left hip too. So I may have inherited some of it, but I had to have my hip done 3 times on that side.
Wow.
Because basically they said, oh, you'll be able to do everything again. And, and I felt great for 8 months. And then I fell over in a car park sideways and went boom, right on the hip, between 2 cars.
Why did you fall? What happened?
I tripped over this. They have these like cement like bars that stop your car from rolling forwards here. They're awful things. People trip over them all the time. But the thing was, my hands were full. I had 2 bags in my hands, and I was so happy. I'd just seen my friend Debbie D'Souza, who flew in with her husband from Bahrain, and there I was lying, worried to move, and I remember wiggling my toes and eventually getting up and thinking I'm okay, but from that moment there were other things that happened, not all at once obviously, but I would be like riding my bike and fall off my bike going around a corner or something. Well, I'm a bit of on the edge, like I'm I don't know, I mean I did a death spiral. There's not many people can do that. And I'm fearless. I used to be completely fearless with certain things. I used to go full speed, backward arabesque or spiral, cross row behind, arms go up, and I'd go back into a death spiral. And I learned that when I was a kid with a Polish girl called Rita Pokorski, and we used to play around like we were pair skaters.
Yeah.
But it became so it became so good, and I could do it at full speed, and never ever fell over doing it. But I used to lift that left hip up when I would go back, and it was like like a seesaw. Imagine a seesaw with something in the middle.
Yeah.
So your skating legs there, your legs at the front, your body's back. So I had to be balanced, and to keep your leg up high enough to balance with the leaning back was very strenuous, actually, with nobody to hold on to. So that could have been another contributor to my hip problem. Yeah, I got a lot of injuries. Don't want to talk about all of them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when you started at 3 years old dancing, using your hips, let's say, and then as you progressed, the training became harder and harder and harder. And I think this happens for a lot of other sports people that start very, very young. That your body kind of, it takes a lot of impact on different areas: knees, hips, ankles.
Yeah, I mean, all your joints, really, your back. And I mean, skaters, I fractured my wrist once. I didn't even know it was fractured. I just thought, oh, it hurts. And I left it, and it healed up badly. It's okay now. It's just a bit stiff in certain ways. But I eventually went to see about it, and he said, you fractured your wrist. And I went, oh, okay. So they injected it. It was the most painful thing it's one of the most painful things I've ever imagined. For about 5 minutes of injections going in. He said, we can either do that or you can have the bone replaced. And I said, oh, just give me the injections. Well, they literally had to hold me down for that. It was Chinese torture. And actually the doctor was Chinese as well.
God. Oh, God, yes. You're reminding me, I'm thinking of my injuries. I'm not going to talk about any of them. I'm just going to say one thing. Every single injury of mine has been through stupidity. And probably, I just think of everything. All boys' stupidity, broken arms, broken fingers, torn ligaments in my hip. All things stupidity. I try not to be.
So you'll know what hip pain feels like. It's really bad. It's terrible.
Awful. It was awful. You know what's
You can't
funny?
do anything. You can't do anything when your hip hurts. You can't walk. You can't move. You can't lift your leg up. You can hardly get in and out of bed and things like that. But the surgeons here are very good, and I would never blame them. In my Dr. Brad Pennenberg, I would never blame him at all for what happened, because the second hip, the screw came out between the femur and the trochanter part. And I think it was because I went to a chiropractor, and he kept pressing my knees up into my chest. I kept saying, don't do that. I've got an artificial hip. He said, oh, it won't affect your hip, but it did. Yeah. I'm sure that's what happened. So this is my third one. And then I had my right hip done a couple of years ago.
Wow. And how is your mobility now?
Well, I mean, physically, of course I'm limited. I can't do the things I used to do, but sorry for that extrovert moment. But it's just I still have a lot of energy, and in my mind, I know that I can, without having to actually demonstrate everything. The skaters that I work with are very well trained. And, recently, as I said before, I was working with Daniel Berdnikoff and also Sarah Beji, who Sarah I've actually known since I think she was 6. And we used to do improvisation then. We've got videos, like from way back. And I planted those seeds, like Angela Greenhow, who's obviously Angela Schramm. I remember years ago. Oh, my screen's changed.
Yeah, I'm just putting a little bit of Sarah on got her.
I got a bit panicky there. I thought something had gone wrong. Yeah. That piece is Stevie Nicks music, Beauty and the Beast. It doesn't play on mine. It's like animated, but I guess it's okay for everybody else. Yeah, that was during the pandemic, actually, when I made that piece. And the next piece that I did for her was to a John Lennon piece of music called Love, because I believe that's what the world needs now. We need love in the world. And she performed it at the Rockefeller Center with the Ice Theater of New York on Valentine's Day.
Wow.
So skating to Love on Valentine's Day at the Rockefeller Center in a red chiffon dress. What more could a girl want?
Wow.
So that was amazing. And I've just finished a new piece for her to some music by from a movie called Modigliani, which represents an artist who was during the same times as Picasso. And when Rembrandt was old, it was all in the movie. And the music, had inspired me years ago for her sister, Hannah Beji. And I made it a lovely competitive program for her. But the one I've done just recently for Sarah is, we just got it finished. We still need to work a little bit on it, but it's very beautiful. And her skating is developed in a very beautiful, expressive, free-spirited way. Gorgeous.
No, yeah, I did come across her page, and I haven't seen anyone skating like her. Not that I'm following lots of skaters, but she's very, very special. And you did say you've been teaching her since she was 7. Is that right?
Yeah. And then another skater that I worked with, and actually Liz Schmidt and Beata Handra were introduced to me by a wonderful, wonderful friend. I can't remember. It's probably we met on Facebook. He's called Paul Spruill. And I remember him coming, it must be about 8 years ago now. He came with Beata Handra, and I choreographed a piece for her. Oh, this piece that's on now is When Atoms Embrace. And this is Liz Yoshiko Schmidt.
Phenomenal as well.
Yeah. And she's been performing this piece to music called Spiegel and Spiegel, which is mirror in the mirror.
Yeah.
And,
I believe On Ice Perspectives filmed this. Is that correct?
Sorry?
I believe On Ice Perspectives, Jordan filmed this.
Oh, Jordan Cohen filmed this, yes. Very, very.
Yeah, I get the sense.
At Bryant Park, and actually, she performed this piece. It was filmed during sunrise, so when you watch the whole piece, the sky lights up, which is really gorgeous. The costume I painted and airbrushed for her.
Really?
When we first,
Costumes.
I love doing that kind of thing, body painting.
She's amazing.
Yeah, so Liz has been wonderful to work with, and I've been so lucky. Like Beata Handra, I worked intensively with her when we first did a piece called Into the Light, and that was also performed for Ice Theater of New York in New York at the Rockefeller Center, and it was by a composer called Guy Bacchus, Canadian.
Yeah.
And I heard the music and I wrote to him because, you can't just use music. So I wrote to him and I said, it was very, very long. And he said he would love for me to use it. And then he helped to edit the music and everything. And it worked out beautifully. And it was called Morning, but I wanted it to sound and have a different story. So I called it Into the Light, which was about someone who had just lost someone, but they were trying to reach out into another dimension for their lost love. And it was so beautiful and so emotional. And again, she was wearing another one of my painted creations, skating creations.
Amazing. So, shall we have a little segue? Should we talk? Because we talked about your show career now. Is there anything else you want to touch on from your show years before we kind of move on to some more other topics?
I mean, there's hundreds of things, but I didn't continue with John because I had that dislocation, that tendon dislocation on my ankle, and when I was playing tennis in Mallorca, which was really crazy, and so I was, suffering for a long time, and I couldn't have gone back to New York, and so I didn't work with John anymore after that, which was a bit sad. But in some ways, I'm glad I wasn't on the tour that they did in Sweden and places, because they had some terrible conditions. But I would have loved to have been at the Royal Albert Hall and things like that, But it's okay, I went to see it, and I just finished doing Robin's show at Victoria Theatre, and that was a lot of fun. So Robin was amazing, and he's still, he's choreographing now. He's an incredible skater. Very, very different to John. But I absolutely loved Robin. He's that massive, huge, open split axel that covered from one end of the rink widthwise to the other. He used to fly.
There's still nobody does it like he did.
No.
Occasionally you'll see one come up. I think Yazuru was doing one. I was watching Dan, and Dan's like, no, put Robin's on.
Yeah.
We put Robin's on. It's like, not even close. Robin
he was tall, and he did some incredible choreography as well. And I remember a piece he did. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It was like a Gene Kelly piece on ice. It was really incredible. He's wearing braces and trousers and he did some gorgeous slow pieces as well, and his speed was phenomenal. The speed that you don't see that now as much, because there's the quads and everything. They need so much direction and so much articulation, and the technique and everything is more set and you can't be as wild, I guess, and fast. You can't drive a fast car and do intricate maneuvers, and so it's kind of, I think, slowed down the men especially a bit. Not all the time, of course. I mean, they're not skating slow, but do you know what I mean? Robin was incredibly fast and strong.
No, amazing. So
yeah.
So when you finished your show career, what did you move on to then? What was your next step?
Well, I started teaching again. I was asked to go to Denmark. I was already teaching, and I was working with Gina Fulton, who's Gina Fulton Carter now, and Tamsin Sear. She was British champion. Jenna McCorkle came a little bit later. So I did a lot of choreography actually there was about 45 national champions in England and other countries who were either champions or medalists, international skaters. And I was like blown away when I looked at my list of people that I'd worked with. So going to Denmark was a great honor, and it was totally unexpected. Their national coach was pregnant and they needed somebody to step in while she had the baby. And when I went over there, I was chosen to go temporarily, and she felt confident, that I would be good for the skaters. And the Team Denmark, they liked my attitude, my work, what I was doing. And so she decided to go join her husband in Switzerland, and I stayed on as the national Olympic coach of Denmark.
Amazing.
And I built something they'd never had before in skating, because they had not had a skater go to Olympics for 35 years. And I said, well, if you want to do that, I cannot do it alone. I need a team. So they introduced me to people in Team Denmark, which is not skating. They're like sports psychologists, nutritionists, doctors, physical trainers, all of this kind of thing. And I added in, you know, contemporary dance classes and ice classes and all of this. And I had an assistant, Maria McLean, and I literally lived it. You know, I was like making all of the plans, the you know, the meetings. I was the daily plan, weekly plan, everything they had to do each day. You know, a guideline to everything. Obviously, everything's not cut and dry, but monthly plan, yearly plan, competition plan.
When did you have time to skate?
Huh?
When did you have time to skate? If you had all
Oh,
this
I skated. I skated when we did the ice classes, and I had a rink to myself all day long. You know, so I kept skating, and my first boy to go to Olympics was Lars Dresler, and it's a very sad story because Lars became sick, and after the Olympics, Skate America, Skate Canada, he sadly he got HIV positive, and within a few years died, and it was terrible because he was the first skater to go to Olympics for 35 years, and I was so proud to do that and manage with, you know, with the system I had built up, because we did figures then as well, so there was like hours and hours and hours of training. And I worked with Henrik Valentin, who is really absolutely gorgeous as well, and Mikael Tillerson, who's actually training a skater that we share sometimes now, and did extremely well. Both of them went to Olympics following what I had set up. But I left when Lars got ill, and my father was also dying, and my relationship was on the rocks because I was never there. So it was a terrible, terrible, terrible time because everything seemed to happen at once, you know, and I went down to being a skinny me. Was very, very sad, and you know, it was a really bad time, very upsetting. But I would go back to Denmark. I saw Lars off and on until the end, and me and Annette Nuga, we took him to Spain because he'd never ever been. He'd been all over the world skating, but never been to Spain. So we took him there. But he, you know, he couldn't eat, he couldn't do anything, and every day he thought he was dying. It was a really tragic, very sad time. And he got his triple axel with me and a quad toe loop. And that was, you know, way back in 1989, after the 1988 Olympics in Calgary. He just was, Frank Carroll said, Lars Dresler has arrived. And Frank, I always sent the boys to Frank during the summertime because the ice rinks would close down in Denmark. So, you know, Frank and I were always together at competitions. He was training Christopher Bowman, and we would sit next to each other in the practices and discuss what, you know, little bits and pieces here and there. And we were, I think it was Skate America. Lars was on a practice, and I said, you know, he didn't have this triple axel in the program, and I said, there's nobody here today, we're the only ones here, let's try triple axel. So he landed it, and I said, oh wow, the first time was such an amazing, you know, when you get something the first time, it's like, oh, all that hard work, you know. And I said, do you want to do another one? And so he did. He did 5, and then I said, how about we put it in, you know. He was always getting 4th place, like in Skate Electric and all these big competitions. And so I said, you never know. But anyway, he landed it a little tiny bit on 2 feet, but he did the triple axel. And Christopher Bowman also landed his triple axel. And so me and Frank went out and celebrated and had a bottle of champagne. So that was a really great time, great memory. But very sad that Lars is not with us. It's extremely sad.
I mean, it must be so bittersweet, like so many incredible things that happened, but then at the same time, so many awful things kind of happened as well after. You took people to the Olympics, but then he got sick. So you must think about this a lot. It must hold like really special part in your heart, I can imagine.
It's terrible. I mean, Lars was so fit. He was the fittest he'd ever been in his life. And that was part and parcel of it because, without mentioning any names, one of his old coaches is still alive and he had AIDS. They got a medication, but Lars was too soon for that. And it was terrible. But I still keep in touch with Henrik and love them both, him and Mikael Tillerson. Beautiful guys. I called them the three Great Danes, my three Great Danes, because they were the female skaters didn't do as well, but we're still a little bit in touch as well, and I think it's wonderful when you can keep in touch with people that that you've worked with over the years. It's like your legacy.
No, definitely. It's like is there any big reunions that happen in the world? I wonder.
I mean, well, when Frank Carroll died not so long ago, I was invited to his funeral, which I was very honored to be invited to. And Frank had always been so complimentary, and he invited me to do his very first summer camp in LA when there was a new rink built there. And he said that I had done amazing things for the Danish skaters, and he hoped that they were well aware of that, because it hadn't been the same after I left. It kind of gradually went down, and it's a different story now. It's very different now. But I've forgotten what I was talking about.
Yeah, we were talking about Denmark. Your time
Denmark, and then Frank Carroll went to his funeral and life celebration, and you were talking about people getting together. There was an incredible gathering for Frank of people from all walks of skating, coaches, choreographers, USFS, people from other countries came, even students of his. Michelle Kwan couldn't be there because she's an ambassador of her country somewhere in Mexico now, so she couldn't make it. But Karen Kwan was there in her place, and she would have been there anyway, but she spoke for both Michelle Kwan and herself about Frank, because they'd both been taught by him.
Yeah.
So that was a big gathering. But there are skating reunions. Every time I go back to England, I have a little reunion of my own, but it's more local,
Yeah.
So what were you thinking? What kind of...
No, it's I mean, I was thinking one thing, and then I remembered what I've built, the Showskaters platform. This is a platform, like one of the ideas with the platform is a skating platform where everybody can chat. We have a community chat where everybody can chat together. The vision was one day there will be hundreds and thousands, not hundreds of thousands, there'll be thousands of people in there once One Blade takes off, and it all kind of works together. But you'll all be able to chat together. Even the people in there now, people, no one's used to having a chat. So no one has Facebook or anything. Everyone has group chats where you're chatting with your friends, but no one's used to this. So I see something like this happening. But I think one day some kind of a reunion could happen, because I think skate companies should be doing a lot more. In the industry.
Can I get a drink of water? It's because
of course.
I had the fan on. Just 1 second. Hang on a second.
Yeah, of course you can. I'm going to have a little bit of water as well.
Yeah.
For anyone that's watching that doesn't know about the Showskaters.com, it's a platform built to connect the skating world. So this podcast is actually from Showskaters.com, and in there will be castings. There's a full Learn to Skate course. There's how-to videos for all gym workouts. There's lots of classes for inline figure skating, for off-ice skating, and castings. And there's an area for coaches and choreographers. So you can post your availability, and then skaters can reach out to you, and then you can work together. And it's going to build and build and build. It'll work kind of together with One Blade, which is the skating company that Dan Nicholson and I are creating. And all of the members will be affiliates of One Blade, so you'll be working together. But Anyway, back to us. So where shall we pick up? I feel like this has been a nice little pause. What shall we talk about now? What would you like to talk about?
I made this. I mean, obviously, I've been around a long time, and there's a few notes. Like, I've always been told that I'm like a trailblazer, and I'm not just a skater. I love to paint. I've got a few paintings just here, very, but and also about the messages I have in the work that I do, and how it affects the audience. I know we talked about we talk about these things, and all the troubles in the world. I believe that people really need an escape, and that's through the world of art and expression. There's somebody that I wanted to mention, is a very good friend of mine too, Vakhtang Mervanidze. He's from Georgia, which is next to the Ukraine, and he got in touch with me on Facebook, I think. Must have seen something, and we've been friends ever since. And he came over to meet me and did some work with a lot of the skaters in LA, and he incredible exercises like nobody else. He's invented a system. It's all incredible work. He even does ballet classes, like put exercises in a way, not really ballet, but he puts his skates on and he does exercises in the ballet room with his skates on, because you have to skate with your skates on. You have strength. He believes in strengthening the feet. So he came over a couple of times, and then eventually he came over to work with a former student of mine, Samara Rockhold, and he's now Vakhtang is now in New York, but calls me up every single day, and he's just a pure artist, amazing. I wanted to show you a couple of little things quickly, just to sort of like pass. Which one's this? This is my first painting of Gina. Gina Fulton Carter, and it's it actually really looks like her. I was so proud when I did this, because to get that position and the foot, you see the way the foot's took, it's actually like a Nijinsky position.
Really good.
And I mean, I've never had a lesson in painting or anything. And my brother's a really famous sculptor and also a pioneer of 3D printing. It's called Keith Brown, and he tells me I have some talent for painting, but my main talent is choreography. And then this painting, get that out of the way. This is a painting of Tamsin Sia, who is 2 times British champion, and I worked with. She was wearing, on the photograph she sent me, she was wearing a plain black unitard, and I just redesigned her costume when I painted her, and which looks very organic, so I spent a lot of time trying to get the leg position, because I think the legs were a bit longer or something. It was a little bit out of proportion, but it worked out pretty nicely. And I'm going to give these paintings to the girls whenever I get the chance to get them over there. And then these were sort of like self-portraits. I tried. This is my spread eagle, inside spread eagle.
That's a painting?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
The colors. The color is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you can see if you see in real life, it's a painting, and then there's another one here, which I was kind of like not knowing what to paint, and I saw this picture I really liked of myself in a spin.
Yeah.
So that's another one. But I made the hair really long. It wasn't that long. And the face doesn't really look like me. But
it looks a little bit Disney-like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I exaggerated the colors because the dress is like, it's like a butterfly. If you look at the skirt, it's a
Yeah.
bit like a wing. So when you're in arabesque, it opens up and it looks like a wing.
Yeah.
I still have that, but it's more green, pale greens and yellows, but I made it more colorful in the actual painting.
I see your signature.
Oh,
Did I no? Oh, on the bottom left. Did I see like a toe pick, or was I imagining that?
oh,
No, I
yeah.
saw this. I was like, do you have a toe pick in your signature?
Oh,
No,
no, but
maybe not. I've just seen things. I wonder if anyone has a toe pick in their signature. That would be quite cool, wouldn't it? So all
I have something in my skate of the art. Hold on a second.
yeah,
I don't know if it's in this actual. I don't know if it's in this actual. Oh, it's in this thing, but I don't know whether. Hold on 1 second.
yeah, that's fine. See,
Oh
guys,
yes, it is. It is on here, which will be clear. I have this really cute little glass ornament that I put in front of pictures, which was given to me by the mother of a skater in Montana who I used to teach. And I don't know whether it'll show up, but
oh yeah, no, I
it's
love that.
skate of the art. And I also have, you can maybe see it like that, but I also
It's
have
backwards for us. It's
I have
backwards
an
for us.
oh,
Yeah,
and
but
then
you can see.
I also have an LED light with which I can set all different colors or change colors, which
Yeah.
is skate of the art. And then
Oh,
this has a skate on the end of it. I
yeah,
It's snowy looking. It's like icy looking. And I designed that myself.
yeah. No, I love it.
Yeah. So that's skate of the art.
When did Skates of the Art come to be? When was that?
Oh, probably something like 1995.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a long time ago. I have photographs taken up in ice castles with my. I then had a pair of pants. I don't know what I did with them. With skate of the art all the way down the leg, and I still have a jacket with skate of the art on the back, and t-shirts and things like that, little tops and things. Yeah, I
And
really like them.
what is that your brand, would you say?
That's my logo. And
Yeah.
if I have a school, it's like a skate of the art seminar or a skate of the art class, or sometimes I call them stylistic dynamics, which is something my brother also taught me about, my artist brother. Stylistic dynamics is when you reshape something. Everything's been done practically, hasn't it? Almost anyway.
Yeah.
And you take something like a skating blade
Yeah.
and you reshape it up, and that's stylistic dynamics. You do something that's been done, like if you had a piece of clay and it was in a shape and you would reshape it. I think that's my interpretation of it. There's another word as well. I don't remember
It's
what that
almost
is,
like
but
remolding, like
hmm?
or innovating.
Yeah, I always say innovate, don't imitate.
Oh, exactly.
And because it's hard, people use the same music sometimes, and like certain piece of music that I may have used that I thought would stay original, but somebody hears it and they love it and they do it, and it's inspiring. It's a compliment to us if anybody does that, but it's not. Nobody owns the music, and everybody does it differently.
Yeah.
Everybody, you could put 10 people on the ice and get them to skate to the same music, and all of them would interpret the music in a different way. Yeah, I wanted to say something about you know how music affects us as well. And I wrote about this because I used to write articles for skating magazines and things like that. And when I would skate to the music, I really felt that vibration, because it's sound. The sound goes into us if we accept it, and so you become the music, and then the music becomes you when you move with it. You know, you move your body in like the music's moving. And some people interpret different instruments. Like you might see them go out and they'll hear the cello, or somebody else goes out to hear the piano. And if it's a more modern piece of music, somebody might feel the drums or the guitar or whatever. You know, it's just like however they interpret it. It's interesting when you see people improvise, which is a great thing to do to create movement.
Yeah, and what would you say you feel the most? Which instrument talks to you?
I mean, I like so many different things. You know, I'm a great fan of jazz, Bob Fosse, I love so much. But I really love deep cello, and I love piano. I think it's lovely to interpret piano music. And I love Chinese harp, incredible sound. But I don't really have an absolute favorite, but I do love the harp, which was from my experience of skating to a solo harpist on a stage with the most beautiful lighting, with a live London Philharmonic Orchestra as well there. I mean, it was just incredible. So the harp had a big impact on me, I think, because of that. But I do really love the harp.
Yeah.
Philip Glass uses it a lot.
Who?
Philip Glass, a composer, he has a lot of harp music.
Yeah. What about saxophone and violin?
Oh, amazing. I mean,
well, these are two that kind of really talk to me.
The blues. Oh my God. I mean, blues is orgasmic. It's like, you know, the trombone and all of that is incredible. You know, I've composed, I want to say composed, choreographed for a guy with this blues music, 5 minutes past midnight, I think it was called. Fantastic. You know, just amazing. Like contemporary jazz, really great.
Yeah. Let me ask you a few questions. So do you feel like there's been any pivotal moments in your career where you may have not achieved or got the outcome that you were expecting, but it kind of took you in a different direction?
Well, I mean, one of the things was when I was, like I told you about, when I was an amateur and I didn't get the place that I wanted, and that changed my career because I became professional. And then when I joined John's show, you know, instead of doing short, because I never wanted to do long-term shows, I did a lot of shows one after the other. I was always getting invitations to do more and more shows. But John's show kept me grounded for a couple of years, you know, just working with him and his choreographers and the company. And then the next big change was going to Denmark.
Yeah.
It ruined my personal life, and you know, a few other things were really difficult, as I said earlier. And then coming to America changed things a lot for me. That's another story.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking? What I'm curious about. So who was Lorna Brown when she wasn't skating and she was in her early 20s? Like, who was she? Did you like to go out? What did you like to do when you weren't skating?
Oh, when I wasn't skating.
Yeah, when you weren't skating. Like, paint a picture for us of your early 20s, Lorna Brown.
Well, I loved to go out and dance. I would go to nightclubs and I would dance and dance and dance and dance and take over the dance floor practically sometimes, you know. I loved dancing. I went to study contemporary dance, Martha Graham. So I did a lot of dance. I did ballet school. I was still doing those things. You know, if I couldn't find a ballet school and I was in a show away from home, I would take, you know, my music into the dressing room and do my class on my own before the show. That's, you know, and stretch and everything else. I was, and I you know, I like to, I didn't really paint so much then. I I like knitting. I knitted a lot of scarves and sweaters and things, and leg warmers and
Yeah.
long gloves. So I did that, and then sometimes would get into making jewelry. I have tons of things I've made that are in my storage. I need to get rid of them. Um, but I like making things. I like creating things.
Yeah. You're a creative person.
Yeah. When I'm not creating, I get very unhappy, really. I like to be creative. It's almost like there's a famous dancer, I think it was Sylvie Gerlain, said, when a dancer doesn't die once, she dies twice, or he dies twice, because when you stop dancing, it's like, I've written poetry about it. It's like your world stops in a way. It's like you don't feel a purpose. You have to keep trying to do something to keep feeling that kind of creative feeling within yourself.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. I stopped skating for a couple of years before I came back a few months ago, and I was fine at first, but then you just miss being passionate about something. I was, I'm
Yeah.
making progress in one place, but I this was my purpose, to be in the skating world, and I wasn't. I was away from it, and I think a lot of people, they step away from performing, from dancing, skating, and they go into something totally different, and they almost leave it behind. But I
Yeah.
know you will never do that, and now I'm back, so I know I'm
No.
not going to do that.
Yeah. There was a time a few years ago here in LA. I got a call from Thai Babylonia, and a music producer, and Mesa Kara was a singer from Lebanon, and she wanted to record a song and have a video, and she wanted Thai to skate, be part of the video, and for me to choreograph it. And I did all of that. There was a bit of a battle about different things afterwards,
Yeah,
and it ended up falling through. But that was really an interesting project to work, because I worked a little bit with Mesa Kara in the way she was presenting herself when she was singing and expressing herself. And they had, like, for when Ty was skating, they had like a piano
yeah.
on the ice. They got a piano. We were in the middle of the night in Pickwick doing this. And that was quite an interesting project to do, which was a bit different. Yeah. So I mean, there's always lots of things to do. I'm a great animal lover. I'm vegan. I stick to that. Not just about the animals, but it is mainly, but it's also about the world, because we need to change the way we do things on the planet. So I'm very interested in trying to learn as much about how the world can improve. And yeah, so that's why when I choreograph now, it's either something to do with expressing the spirit, and reaching out to people to give them something beautiful, so that they aren't depressed by what's going on in the world, because there are so many problems in so many ways, and with the environment, the climate change, and then the wars,
Yeah.
and there's so much going on. It's very hard to listen to, but we do need to face up to these things, and we need to try to fight to do the best we can to help to make it better.
No, I 100% agree. So let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about your experience with Ice Theatre of New York. And for
Yes.
anyone that doesn't know what Ice Theatre of New York is, you want to give a brief explanation and a little bit of history, maybe?
Well, Moira North would be the best at doing
Yeah,
that, really.
yeah,
I mean, she has done an incredible job of. She's had tons of different choreographers, and they have their ice class every week. I remember going to one when I was in New York for John Curry's memorial, and I went to the Sky Rink and met up with Moira North and did one of their classes then, way back. But they do an outreach program. They work with little kids as well. They do lots of pop-up shows so that their company can perform, and they do it all over New York at the Woolman Rink in Central Park, or Bryant Park, or the Rockefeller Center, or somewhere else. And there's, you know, the company members, beautiful skaters, all go out and perform, and every October and May they have a big gala, and so they invite a lot of different beautiful skaters. They did one last year for Elia, and Roheen Ward skated, and some of my skaters skated as well, and I think for me, I see it as New York recognized my work, and there aren't really many skaters left from John's show, because most of the guys died, and the female skaters aren't as active choreographically as I am, and they've supported me a great deal in that way. And my skaters, Sarah Beji has just joined up this week, actually. She's a new member of I See It of New York, and so it'll be interesting to see how it all develops. It's a great thing. You know, we need that kind of thing. We need schools of skating. We need people to be not, you know, I mean, you have to be in a team for the amateur world, you know, competitive world. You have to be in a team to survive, really. It's very, very hard to do that on your own. But yeah.
I was trying to think where we want to go with the conversation next, because we have talked about quite a lot of things, and let's talk about exactly when you start with a new piece and you have a piece of music and you have your skaters. How do you begin the process? Do you begin to let them play with the movements, or do you suggest movements, or how do you kind of go about that?
Well, the first thing I do is I get a feeling, a concept, and I allow visions to, allow my mind to just dream about, in a way, whatever you want to call it, to innovate ideas. And I listen to music, and then I imagine that skater moving to the music, and I dance to it as well. I go in front of the mirror and I move, and I try to I work a lot with the hands now, more than ever. Hands are so expressive. When you talk, you use your hands a lot, and so I go from all of that, imagining the body and the way the body's moving, and to the music, and what they might be dressed in, which is usually something very simple but very effective, and sometimes airbrushed or hand painted, or just simple chiffon shaded or whatever. And then I talk to the skater who I'm going to work with about how they feel about different pieces of music that I will send them. And I'm actually being really lucky, because most of them like what I like. And then I like I said earlier, it's like serendipity. I don't know what I'm going to do, and I'll experiment with some positions to start with, and then I just let it grow. I just let it evolve out of there, from one thing to another, and then things happen accidentally. Like you do a position, they nearly fall over or something, and you think, oh, that looked good. Not always like that, but I make sure that everything is staged. If it's an ice rink, then with people all around, it's a different story. But if it's something like Ice Theatre in New York, or if it's in a theatre, it should be like any dance company. It should be staged so you see the best angles of their body and positions as possible. You know, you don't get any back views or the side view of, say it's a couple. Like I worked with Ksenia Ponomarova and Colin Brubaker on a piece that I called Sacrosanct.
Yeah.
And you know, everything has to be at a certain angle so that, you know, the audience gets the best view, but it still moves, you know, in all different directions. And, you know, I try to not cross the same part of the ice twice. You know, I try to make sure that everything's covering the ice surface and in as many different shapes and forms as possible. It's hard to talk about choreography because it's so it happens in the moment, you know.
Yeah, no, it's sometimes hard to explain certain things. You're like, this is it's more of a feeling, an emotion. Like you can't explain it.
And I video everything. Like if something I like something, and then I kind of reshape it or whatever, and then I video it and I said, this is what I want, and then we go through it frame by frame, if you like in slow motion. Sometimes I'll film it in slow motion and I'll say, your head needs to be more here, or your arm needs to be more there, or your body needs to be more whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
Do you have
I'm very articulate in even though it's very beautiful movement, I'm still very articulate about the way they move. It's very detailed.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have many students that you work with through the Zoom or through video in other parts of the world?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes I do, but not enough, really. I would like to do that more.
Yeah.
It's never the same. It's not the same as actually being hands-on with somebody. You know, when you're hands-on, you can actually get hold of somebody's body, and you can kind of push them into a position, and you know, because they think they're in it, but because they can't see themselves, they might not be quite where you want them to be. So you have to, and that's why it's really good to do off ice in the mirror, so they can see it and they can see the video when they're not in a mirror. I wish that ice rinks had more mirrors.
No,
It would
exactly.
be great. Yeah.
Mirrors are great. This is one of the benefits when you're on inlines, that you can be in a studio.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in the future, when our one blades are out, and you can just take the blades off and put the frames on, and then go to a studio and practice the same.
Yeah. Moira North has a studio of artificial ice, and that can also be used for, you know, if somebody's on a hoop or, you know.
I may have seen Sarah. Maybe this is what I've seen. They have plastic ice there. This okay. This is Ice Theatre of New York. So I've seen videos, but I never knew exactly what it was.
Yes, Sarah France works a lot in the studio, and she's developed that over the last few years, and also Adagio, and then there's another skater that I love very much called Angela Kim, and I haven't even seen her skate that much, but she came in when I was choreographing When Atoms Embrace, and there's a story to that. But when I was doing that, was the first piece I was actually commissioned for, because I'd done the Into the Light with Beata Handrum on my own with Beata. That was her piece, but she performed it for Ice Theatre of New York. But When Atoms Embrace, Angela Kim was there watching, and several skaters were trying to learn the choreography in case you know, Liz wasn't there, or so they would need somebody to take over. And I remember Angela being involved with that. You know, she's an amazing performer. She's, as you know, she's done Cirque du Soleil, Art on Ice, and all of that kind of thing. My dream is to be able to do a huge production number, and in my mind I can actually see things as I speak about it, and have great people to work with me on because the costumes are very important. You know, how every part of the production, we'd be the lighting and that, you know, the actual skaters, of course, and everything about the way they look and the you know, the props, you know. And I remember seeing a piece of contemporary dance by Robert Cohen, and there was a stage. They were dancers, and so they were all part of this painting. So they would kind of come out from the painting and painted as that part. And there were stages, like they were like it was a sloping stage, but not stage, like scenery, and they were different levels. So there were dancers moving and sliding down into the stage. It was just incredible. That was Robert Cohen, and there's so much you can do. I remember years ago I did this thing called Ice Warriors, and it was a very spacey thing where they had all these obstacle courses and games, and I was like the team coach on that.
Yeah.
And they had sloping artificial ice. And then I remember they brought that into the Blackpool show, and I thought, oh, we did that already, you know. But not in a circusy way, but it could be used in incredible ways. That kind of sloping ice, you know, coming down.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then there's all the ribbons and there's lots of things that can add to.
Going through my mind about what you're saying. You know, it's like I'm wondering, I'm like, do you ever see any skaters that you're like, I want to work with them? You just see someone move, and you know, someone can just do one edge. They don't even do anything but one edge, and you just see, you're like, they have it. You know, you're like,
Yeah,
I want
the
to work
it quality. Yeah, it's all about visual impact and image. I mean, the body of the skater is like the clay to a sculptor, or you know, the canvas to an artist painter, and sometimes there'll be somebody who just has a presence. You know, they don't have to be a world champion. They, you know, Nobahar Dadu was somebody I worked with. I did a beautiful Persian piece for her, and Persian piano piece, and you know, she was lovely and multi-talented girl, and she has a wonderful personality and presence. She's a very unique person.
No, definitely. So I want to talk about audiences. So what do you? I'm going to read this because I have everything written down. So what do you have audiences take away from your performances, and do you like to have a message that you try to bring across to them?
Yeah. Well, earlier this year, there was a piece that I choreographed for Liz Yoshiko Schmidt and Daniel Berdnikov called Timelessness. And the music is by Eric Christian. And I heard it somewhere and got in touch with him and asked him if I could use that music. And then I let it play for Moira North, Ice Theatre of New York, because they were commissioning me to do this part of it. And it was just amazing, the music. It was the way it all came together, and I called it Timelessness. And when they performed it, I remember Atoy Wilson, who I just talked to earlier this morning, and Ty Babylonia came rushing down as we were leaving the show, you know, because there's like a red carpet thing at the front on the ice, and I was coming out, and they were so breathtaking. They were so complimentary about it, and because the way I did it, I had never really worked with a couple before. I usually work with individuals, you know, soloists, and I was in tears when I watched them. It was so beautiful, and it's almost like seeing your dream happening in reality, and
Yeah.
feeling the atmosphere, that energy, and the audience are totally involved. When you can hear a pin drop,
Yeah.
then I mean, when people start talking in the middle of something, it's not really very good. I mean, these people, both, all the times they performed it at the Warman Rink in Central Park, which was also very beautiful, with New York lit up all around them, and also they did Scott Hamilton's celebration, 40 years since he won the Olympics, and that was under the Brooklyn Bridge. There's an ice rink, and Brian also was there, and Josef Sobotchik, and a gathering of few skaters, and some were from Ice Theatre New York, and other things as well. But the two pieces I had in that was Sarah Beachy skating to Love, the John Lennon piece, and Liz and Danilo doing the Timelessness piece. And there's a little video of Brian Orsa saying that he was really blown away by Timelessness.
Yeah.
He said it was awesome, and that was a big compliment coming from him,
Yeah. No, for sure.
The coach of Olympic champions like Yazoo Hanyu and many others. When you get compliments from people who are high achievers and very famous in what they do, it really is very rewarding.
No, it is. I mean, often we don't get compliments. It's like we're not really looking for compliments. I'm never really looking for compliments. I don't think from talking to you, it's not something that you're looking for.
No.
And even when you do get compliments, it's a strange thing. It's always for me when someone gives me a compliment, it just feels strange. I don't know why. Maybe I'm not used to getting them. I don't know. Do you have that kind of feeling sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, because some people are genuine and some people aren't, but the most important thing is knowing that there are people who loved what you did. Oh, a second. I'll just have a little sip. It's because I've got the fan on here.
Yeah, I'm quite warm here. I've got all the windows closed, and it's I don't know what time it's 10 p.m.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
we're very lucky actually that we haven't been interrupted by my cat, Ginger, because he's very comfortably sleeping on a chair, and he's been asleep the whole time, which is really lucky, because it would have been a bit annoying if he'd come in and started yelling at me and meow 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 for something to eat, or just attention, or he wants to go for a walk, because I take him out on a harness and a long leash for walks, and I take him out. He also has a stroller, because I won't go into the details. It's just one of the rules here that you're not allowed to have animals outside without being with you or near you. So that's another story to go into.
I mean, you live in California. There's lots of rules and taxes and all sorts there, isn't there?
Well, it's also because of coyotes, and we have a lot of wild animals. And there was one night I go and feed this stray cat every night. I've been doing it for 4 years in different areas where it decides to go. And one night I'd fed the cat, and I went up a little driveway, not very far away, and I was stroking the cat, and I heard a clutter, because I had my iPhone and my AirPods in a little bag, and then another bag that I kept the cat food in, like with a flat bottom. And even though the cat had already eaten, this animal, I didn't know whether it was a person who'd stolen my bag. And then a week later, a neighbor found it between two houses. she saw it out the window and she managed to get it. But the phone and the AirPods had dropped out of the bag, and if it had been a person, it would have. So it must have been a raccoon. Only a raccoon would have done that. They have, little hands, and it was obviously looking for something to eat.
Yeah, I mean it's quite tough for animals in cities.
Well, it hasn't rained here since the winter. We haven't had a drop of rain, and there was 9 years of drought. There was no green grass anywhere for a long time, and then all of a sudden we had this massive downpour of rain, and it's a bit scary that it doesn't rain very much at all ever. I don't remember when it rained last year.
Yeah, strange. I mean, when you
We
say
had earthquakes though.
yeah, when you say it doesn't rain straight away, I'm like, oh, that sounds good. I like sun. It's been nice weather where I am today, so I've been in the sun.
You really appreciate the sunshine when you don't get it. You really appreciate.
Oh yeah, when I was in Blackpool, it was because I left Blackpool now. It's just been grey every day. I just talked to Dan today. He's like, oh, went with Izzy somewhere, and it was torrential rain. No, it's not raining where I am.
No, yeah, it's a big worry, and a lot of people are in denial about climate change, but it's been coming on for quite a long time. And hearing about all these floods all over the world, and then when I heard about floods near where my brother Keith is in Manchester, it was in another area, but people are losing their belongings, their homes, their cars are floating down the streets, and animals are dying, and it's all over the world. There was a typhoon just recently in Japan, but we won't go into all of that.
Yeah, I know. We're going to go through all the countries. Dubai, do you remember this? I mean, I wasn't there, but I know people there.
Yeah, I went to. That's something I forgot to talk about. I went to Dubai, but I was actually most of the time in Abu Dhabi, and I went out there to choreograph Diab. He was the only male skater, I think, competing in Abu Dhabi. Yeah. And I was with him, every day for hours on end and doing off ice, on ice. He's now in Canada, so yeah. But it was an experience. It's very, we go to places we would never have gone to. Like I went to Kuwait once.
Yeah.
And I skated to La Primera d'un Forn in a painted airbrushed unitard costume, and I was kind of like shocked in a way, because there wasn't a woman in the audience. All I could see were all these white, the Arabs with the red band, and it was just full of these men in the audience, and we were doing a show for them for some new ice rink or something like that, and I think it was I don't know whether it was the Blackpool skaters, or I can't remember now, all the people who were there, but I know instead of saying that I was it was the afternoon of a fawn, they announced, well, I think he was joking, to be honest, because they said Lorna skating to the music on a mountain chasing a goat. I was really mad when they told me that. I think they were joking with me.
On a mountain chasing a goat, yeah. Yeah, I think I remember the Kuwait and hearing about it with hot ice going there, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Kuwait, that's what I think of, and I haven't been there myself. But,
I went to Iran with hot ice.
Yeah.
And I skated to this beautiful Persian music that I later did for Nobaha, and I was skating to that in Iran, and it was right before the revolution. So they thought, because I was staying with my fiance's family, and I was driven in every single day with his sister Charmaine, and so I was separate from the group who was staying in a hotel. And they thought that I was in what they called the Red Brigade. And I didn't even really know what that was. But basically, they thought I was a spy. So I just thank God that they didn't ever take me away. Because God only knows what it would have happened to me if they'd suspected that I was a spy.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, God knows what they would have done, you know, because that can happen in places like that.
Yeah.
You can
No.
just be swiped off and put in prison. And
Oh, it is. I mean, I think it can be scary enough just for a man in this world. I mean, in England at the moment, anywhere. But for a woman, like a beautiful young woman, when they're alone, I'm like, it must be quite scary.
mhm, yeah, well, that's another subject to get into.
Yeah, no, that's definitely.
Religion, culture, and politics.
Yeah. I have a 6-year-old daughter. I'm like, she's too
Oh,
beautiful. I've got a lot of work coming up in the next, hopefully, long in like 10 years, until she's into any of that. So I'm looking now. We've been talking for an hour and 45 minutes.
oh my
So
goodness.
yeah, it's quite a long time. We actually have 50 people watching right now. So I don't want to take more of your time. I think we've touched on a lot of things, and we could talk about a lot more things. But is there anything that you want to touch on before I ask
I
you?
mean, there's a lot of people that I haven't even talked about. Things like when I did the summer camps for 7 years with Raphael Oritunian. And
Let's talk about that.
yeah, I did incredible. I even had a co-choreographer come and work in my summer school, who was an assistant to Bob Fosse. I had sports psychologists, I had nutritionists, I did it like I would have done in Denmark. I did it in England for 7 years on the trot, and that was with Raphael. And I had Alexander Abd and some other skaters that he brought over to demonstrate for him.
And where was that? England?
That was in Whitley Bay, in the northeast of England, and also in Belfast. And there's a lot of stuff, that we didn't touch on. Like, I think you were going to ask me what I would change in skating today. And I wrote an article in the PSA magazine several years ago, and it was all about choreography, but I wrote that, and I'll try to be brief because it is a long time. I said, and I believe these ideas are being contemplated still today, but haven't happened yet. And that is that we have a short program and a long program in all the events practically after you reach a certain level. But like if you take the Worlds and Olympics, right? You have a short program is a shorter version of the long is a longer version of the short, different music, different costume. Basically, the skaters are allowed, to do what they do within the rules, and there's the footwork and there's the jumps and the spins and everything. But I suggested they scrap the short program the way it is completely and just leave the long program to be very technical and have everything. It's like everything they can do, spins, jumps, steps, tricks, whatever it is, everything in there with the rules. And then the short program should be not just an artistic program. It should be quality of edges, interpretation of music, visual impact, and how you put things together. And you can do maybe 2 jumps or 3 jumps, but they must be of a creative nature. You can do 2 or 3 spins, but they must be of a creative nature. But that hasn't happened yet. It's a lot more complicated than that. But basically, a separate program to the long program, 2 different programs of different qualities and different abilities. And I see that coming because to me, it's really necessary that they make some changes, because it's just like an ongoing thing with they change the rules for this and that. But the footwork, is basically been the same for years now, practically. There are little changes in what you can and cannot do, but not that much.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not in the competitive world at all, but that makes sense to have 2 different types of programs. If one is just a longer version of the short, then if you have, I mean, you could even go a step further and then have jumps separate. You know, when I was younger, I always thought, you know, because I've also been into BMX and aggressive rollerblading. I've done a lot of this. This is why I just love doing tricks. This is why I'm like perfect for the circle, because I just like the tricks, you know. But
Yeah.
imagine there was jump competitions. You know,
Well, we used to have those when I was very young. They had compulsory figures, compulsory jumps,
yeah,
and a free program. So that did used to happen.
yeah. Because a program just only choreography, like some of the pieces that I've seen you create, like, because there are a lot of things that are done at the lower levels, like interpret it. Okay, we don't know what music is going to be, and they play the music, and you've got to skate. Like, why does this stop when we get to the higher levels? It would be more interesting to see this from the higher level skaters.
I mean, really, honestly, I mean, there's some beautiful skaters like Stefan Lambiel, Jeremy Abbott, Jonathan Cesar,
Yeah,
Adam Rippon. There's all these amazing skaters, and I'm sure that they would have produced something, you know, with choreographers or on their own or whatever. But if they had been allowed, the audience would love it.
yeah,
Audience would just love for skaters to come out, and they, you know, and of course the problem would be in who would judge it. You'd need very accomplished choreographers to judge, and there would be rules, but the rules would have to allow for the creativity. Like if you did, say you did a 1 foot axel, you know, with certain arm positions, or you know, a different leg position or something, or you know, you do a spin that, say you did a CrossFit spin in a layback, which I actually saw somebody do many years ago. She was the only person in the world ever I saw that, but it was a CrossFit spin, and she actually did a complete layback
yeah,
in the which is amazing.
yeah.
So there are things, but they're not allowed. I mean, yeah, there are people who come up and they do something different, but they're so under the
Radar.
restrictions.
Yeah, the thing is as well, you know, everyone has what they're great at. Some people are really good at jumping, some people are great at spinning, but then there's some people that just have that ability for choreography and steps, but it's hard to create a level playing field where you separate some of the elements somehow. And you know, like figures, you know, like you came ninth in figures, so that. But if you'd have, that was it's just a different way to do this. And you know what we can do? So 2 or 3 years ago, I did an online competition. I think I had 85 people enter. This was inline figure skating. Everyone sent in their videos. I actually ended up judging them, and I did it. It was all streamed through YouTube and everything. And so I've done this before. I know how to do it, and I will do something like this with Showskaters, but in the future. But I won't do it alone. I already talked a little bit with Oksana about this. So this will be a way for us to do something like this. You know, there maybe there is 2 programs. However, it will be done. It's something that I would maybe it's something you would be interested to be part of, where we design something different than what is out there, and maybe there's, you know, the ice in, you know, different. However, it's done.
Yeah.
But let's get creative and do something different. And
Because
maybe
there has to be change. You know, at some point things have to change. And you know, in skating, we've had axles, double salchows, double toe loops, double loops, double flips, double ellipses forever.
yeah,
You know, so you know, when people like Robin Cousins went out and did a split axle, or there's an amazing former student of Raphael called Ari, who's does many wonderful things now, an agent and all kinds of things. And he used to do an incredible positions in the air, like go and do an axle, do some kind of sit position or something, you know. And but they were huge jumps, you know. And you know, when you see, like we said before, Yazoo Hanyu flying through the air doing a split axle, he's gone back to something that happened years ago,
Yeah, well, it's just
you know.
fun, you know. It's like, I mean, I was a single skater until I was 28, until I did pairs, and we would play around with different things. A hitch kick, but a hitch kick from a toe, or a delayed flip. So you jump and you
Yeah,
delay a split,
yeah. I
or
used to do it. I used to do a split lutz. I used
yeah,
to jump back, and my split jump was really split. And yeah, I don't know how the hell I did it then, but and also I used to do a split toe loop. I don't know how I did that either.
yeah,
But um, but there are other things you can do, you know, and a lot. Like I said, there's lots of things that were done. If you look at some of the very old videos of people, and somebody like, I don't know if you've heard of Belita. She was I mean, you know, way back in technique and everything, but a beautiful skater to watch. Um, I preferred her to Sonia Heaney. Belita was just incredible. She was like a real ballet dancer, big star in those days. You know, those shows that they used to have were phenomenal. Those Follies Berger or whatever they call it, they were incredible, really amazing.
When you mention the names of the shows from the past that are not around now, they all sound really, really posh. They've all got these beautiful
Yeah.
names.
But you know, even ice follies and it's so sad that ice capades, you know, Dorothy Hamill and all these amazing skaters and were stars in these shows, and they were huge, you know, huge companies and huge casts and amazing costumes and lighting and, you know, just incredible. But skating needs more. We need more ice shows for skaters to perform
Yeah,
instead of having to compete and compete and compete. You know,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there.
All right.
So let me ask you a question. What has been the most challenging piece that you've ever created?
Um, it's hard to say, really. I mean, all pieces are challenging in a way. I worked with Kevin van der Perren. He was Belgian champion for several years, and I did a couple of pieces for him. And you know, he was an incredible jumper. I mean, he had the quads and triple axel and fast and
Yeah,
strong and everything. But he wasn't so like my usual style. So I was getting him to move in different ways, and that was quite challenging, but it worked out really well. He was second in Skate America,
yeah,
and I think he won the long program, second in the other one in the short. But um, challenging, the most challenging. Well, the most challenging thing is if you have to choreograph for somebody who can't move very well.
yeah. Well,
I,
it hasn't happened yet. One day, in the next month or whenever, when I do start traveling, I will come to LA and we'll do something together. And the thing is,
oh,
as
that would be incredible.
I said,
Oh, that would be amazing. You know what? The best thing for me is somebody who will allow me to do my job, who doesn't say, oh, I don't like that, or can I move like this instead of like that, or whatever. The most wonderful thing is to just let me choreograph,
yeah,
and then I can decide if it looks good on you or not, because it has to look good on you, on your shape and form,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, definitely.
um
The most proud roots piece that I've done was for Robin Cousins in his show. It was choreographed by Robin and Mark. I watched it the other day and I couldn't believe that that was me doing it because
really, I'd love to see that.
I mean, it could be done better, but because I know that I'm just more tricks guy. I'm not there. Even though I danced from 3 years old for 10 years,
You never know what you're capable.
you know,
You
it's
know,
yeah.
you might
I
be
need
more capable than you can
yeah,
ever imagine.
yeah. I think
Because
a lot of skaters, when you try to create by yourself, and then you work with a really great choreographer, you notice the difference, and it's being humble enough to know what your strengths and your weaknesses are. So
yeah,
I would love to create a piece of you, but there's not pairs. It's just edges and turns. No jumps, no spins, just edges and turns. Because
and then you find what you think is going to suit that person. What music, what concept is going to suit that person. It's not just what I am thinking. I'm thinking for the person.
yeah,
You know, I'm imagining what it's like for that person.
yeah,
Yeah. Very, very,
something
very important.
I'll look forward to for sure.
Yeah, I hope so. Be amazing. Okay.
So, do we? We're just touching 2 hours. I mean, this is officially, it is the longest podcast. I did say it would be the longest. Now, I know we could drag it on. We could talk about lots and lots and lots of more things, but it's been 2 hours. We can always do another one. So do we want to kind of wrap up today? We have 56 people watching right now. Was there any stories that come to mind?
Well, well, you mean in shows or with my choreography, or
I
mean,
don't know.
There's lots of stories with John Curry.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there was one night we were, as I spoke about earlier, we were in Twickenham Film Studios in London with all these famous film directors and everything, and we were working on the harp. And I branched out to talk about the actual piece that he was choreographing, the harp and all of that. But when we were rehearsing, we had been on the ice. We were the only 3 skaters left in the studios, and it was like 12 hours later, and my heel was bleeding. It was swollen. My foot was hurting, and he said at one point, "Oh, don't just stand there like a pudding." And I said, I was horrified, you know, because I was as thin as I could be.
Yeah.
And I said, "Ha!" And I was like, "You can take me out of this number." And I stormed off, and then I shouted at him, and I said, "Take me out of the show. I'm done." And I left. And I'm like, "Oh, what have I done?" And a height of anger, and you know, I was insulted. I was 12 hours skating, you know, with swollen feet. You know, I had to go to the doctor a couple of days later to have it lanced because it was going up into my heart. You know, it was infected, and I had to wear one of the boys' boots because I couldn't get my skate on. It was really terrible. We were worked to death, you know, and he apologized afterwards because he realized just, you know, how difficult it was for me to even stand up. Then I had to be off for a few days and learn the rest of the piece from the side of the ice, and I did it, you know. But that was another little story, you know. You go through a lot of hardships in shows and
in life,
especially with John. 12 hours a day rehearsals every day, you know, to perfection.
No, definitely. I mean, you go through that in life, don't you? That's just part of the journey, and that's what makes you stronger.
Yeah.
So so I think we just hit 2 hours. So there's one last question. I kind of know the answer, but or maybe it's a different answer today. I don't know. So let's talk about legacy. Let's talk about legacy. So what would you like to be known for when you take off your skates for the last time? You look back on your incredible career. What would you like to be known for?
Well, my choreography and the students. You know, there's a lot of special students, and forgive me if I don't mention all of them, but like Liz Yoshiko Schmidt, and Sarah and Hannah Beji, the sisters. I've met Daniel, Ksenia and Colin, who I was very, very inspired to work with. That was a piece I did. They were like, I painted their costumes like trees, and they were in a rainforest struggling to survive. You know how they're cutting down the rainforest, and there's bulldozers and fires and everything. And the piece was very emotional, and it was all about saving each other and you know, protecting each other, and that all came into the choreography. That was a very memorable piece, and yeah, I think there's a long list of people and situations. Have to write a book.
Yeah, that's the next step, the next thing.
Yeah.
Memoirs. So I think I think we did it. We did it.
It's been really great. We had a bit of a struggle me getting organized in the beginning because we were on WhatsApp at the same time and I couldn't get onto the thing, and I'm like, oh, we've got this advertised and everything, and then people are going to go, where are they? What's happening?
I know.
And I'm not that technically savvy sometimes, because I was supposed to be doing this on my iPad, and so I could see it a bit better, but I ended up having to do it on my iPhone. But
Yeah.
it's worked out. It's
we
worked
did
out
it.
well.
We did it.
We
I
did
think,
it.
I think
Thank you
it's been a
so
great
much.
conversation. We talked about many parts of your incredible career, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming on to our
And
podcast.
thank you so much, Adam, because it's given me an opportunity to go through some of my life and remember things and recapture things that I've forgotten about. I'm sure there's a lot more, obviously, but we can't do it all.
Oh no,
It's been great.
Yeah,
So
well,
love you lots, Adam, for asking me. It's so nice of you. So nice of you to actually ask me. And I've been watching some of your other podcasts, which are just amazing to listen to.
yeah, I've been blessed so far with my first 6 guests. Starting quite high, so we need to keep this up. So let's see.
Yeah,
See
I
who-
think one of my AirPods just died.
Oh, it's time. It's time. So, and again, thank you so much, Lorna. We will be in touch, of course. And I hope everyone has enjoyed watching.
And my cat is now screaming. Isn't that amazing? He started crying to come in
He's-
at the right moment. So he must have known. Okay, thank you so much, Adam.
No,
Thank you. And I hope everyone enjoyed it as much as we did.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, 2 hours 6 minutes. That was an experience. So I hope you all enjoyed that. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know what you liked about the conversation with Lorna. And if you haven't joined Showskaters, not yet. If you haven't, sorry, I can't talk now. If you haven't joined Showskaters yet, then please join. We're building an incredible community there together. And watch this space for what's coming up next with our next podcast, and also with One Blades, the most revolutionary figure skating blades ever, created by Dan Nicholson. So without further ado, I'll say goodbye for now.